Horsey YouTubers. So today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. Normally I just vlog my progress and my horses and how we're doing, but today I decided to do something a little more helpful and put together a list of helpful tips and things that I've learned being an equestrian for almost 9 years, I think. So hopefully this is useful to people who want to get into riding or are very new to riding in their first couple months or their first year. Just some useful advice. So I did make a list to keep track of all of them, so I'll try to keep it a little bit brief but informative. So the first thing I would suggest is just to find the right stable. Usually bigger cities will have lots of stables to choose from, so I would look into all of those stables, whether you just look them up on Google or you call them or you go visit them personally and see what lessons they teach, meet their instructor, see if you get along, see what kind of horses they have. Do they only have little ponies and are they more for kids? Or is it a stable with big draft horses? Is it a stable with Arabians and they only show on the Arabian circuits? Is it a Western riding stable with barrel racing and cattle penning? Or is it an English stable where you eventually learn to jump? So maybe pick one and get into that discipline, but you can always change it later. If you're at a good stable and you mesh well with them, they should be helpful and informative, and you should be looking forward to every single lesson. If you're not, I would actually suggest maybe looking for another stable or giving it another month, because it could just be your stable is getting in the way and nothing to do with horses. It could be the sport of a lifetime for you, but you're at a Western stable and you'd rather just be riding carts and ponies and learning how to do that. So another thing to look for with your stable, are you getting personal attention from your trainer? How many people are in the lesson? Are there 8 people in the lesson and you're just walking around the perimeter of the arena for an hour? Or are you actually getting to learn how to ride? Is your trainer talking to you and helping you specifically? That's probably the most important thing that I've ever learned at any stable. A lot of stables just cram as many people into the arena as possible and just count the experience and the time on their horse as the lesson. But there's so much more to it. Like, you really need someone helping you how to ride properly and how to communicate with your horse and how to have nice balance up there. You can't just be walking in circles. It doesn't work. Okay, so I'd say second tip for brand new riders is don't buy the best equipment. You just need something with a heel, like a paddock boot even, or a cowboy boot. You can even start with those rubber tall boots. I don't recommend those for very long and they're not very comfortable, but it's a good starting point and you can replace them after a little while. I would suggest for sure have some rubber boots because stables are often dirty and mucky and you don't want to get your city shoes all covered in horse manure. So good footwear, definitely like invest in maybe a paddock boot. It can even be a used paddock boot, but you don't need to go out and buy $800 custom tall boots right off the bat. Your riding breeches as well, you don't have to get the best one. Get just the schooling variety breeches. You can ask at the tack shop which ones to get. Or even just some kind of tight yoga pants to start for the first month or two aren't the worst thing. It's not the end of the world. Your helmet as well. You don't need to go out and get a $600 Charles Owen brand new show helmet. You just need something to protect your head. That's really it. So get a horse approved helmet. I know they usually start at the lower end at about $50 here in Canada. That would be like $30-40 in the States. So I mean, for your first helmet for the first 6 months or a year, that's doable. Just get a helmet. Helmets are a must. That's actually another tip on my list. Always wear a helmet. Whether your instructor is there or not, whether you're bareback, whether you're just hopping on for a minute, just wear your helmet, trust me. My first year, I got thrown off horses and horses would bolt, and I hit my head several times and even cracked a couple of helmets. So imagine what would have happened if I didn't have a helmet on. Just wear the helmet. Horses are unpredictable. Things can happen. Just be safe. It can be a dangerous sport. And if that's all you do for protection, just do that. Maybe reassess that after 5 to 10 years when you're an experienced rider. But when you're starting, wear your helmet, no matter how dorky and gross it looks. Just do it. Okay, another tip that not many people know about, ask your trainer about lunge line lessons if they haven't already done that with you. A lunge line lesson makes it so you don't have to worry about steering the horse or controlling the horse's speed. Your trainer will stand in the middle of the arena with your horse on a lunge line. So that's a really long lead rope from their halter or bridle to the instructor, and they'll just go in circles around the instructor. And so you just sit in the saddle and you can focus on your body position. So your trainer sometimes will get you to like put your arms out like you're flying, upwards, all sorts of weird positions, like maybe on your hips. So you can feel what your pelvis is doing, what your legs are doing, feel what the horse is, their bumps and their motions. That's so helpful even at the Grand Prix level of riding. The top level of riding, people will still do lunge lessons because it's so beneficial. They are quite tiring too. So that's actually another point on my list. Riding can be really tiring. Treat it like you're going to the gym. You're going to get sweaty afterwards, so maybe bring like a spray or some dry shampoo for your hair, a change of clothes if you're like going to the grocery store or to hang out with friends afterwards. Bring a water bottle to sip throughout your ride as well as after. Take breaks. Don't feel bad if you're achy for weeks after. That is normal. It does take a month or two of riding once a week to get those riding muscles to where they need to be where you won't be sore. So if after a couple weeks you're sore after every ride and you're tired after every ride, that's fine. Like, you're working your body in weird new ways. So just enjoy it. Treat it like a gym session until it's easier. The next tip is actually a trick for posting the trot. A lot of people have difficulties posting the trot at first, and some people it takes them a good year or more just to get the balance and the rhythm of the post trot. So I've seen and met a lot of riders who, even after riding for a year or two and maybe they're still struggling with that posting trot, they haven't learned the simple trick to post the trot. So you know the trot is a 1-2, 1-2 rhythm. You'll feel it right away. Like, at first it might just feel like a bouncy mess, but if you really concentrate and focus, you'll feel it's a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 kind of rhythm. You can even count that out in your head, and it will help you anticipate what the horse is about to do. So when you're saying that 1-2, 1-2 in your head, look at the horse's shoulders. Just move your eyeballs down, glance at the horse's shoulder, and you'll see that they're moving like this, the shoulders. You'll see them. So pick one shoulder. Usually the outside shoulder, but to not complicate it, just pick a shoulder. So let's say the left shoulder. Every time that left shoulder you see goes forward and the right goes back, when it goes forward, count 1. When it goes back, count 2. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And then you just go upwards on the 1, down on the 2. And that's it. That is how you post the trot. And when I was taught that the first time, many years ago, it made posting the trot just a breeze. I never had to worry about the rhythm again. I could anticipate it better. It's easier to sit the trot. It's easier to switch your diagonals when you're worrying about diagonals. All of those things. So riders that I've met who've been riding for 5 years and stuff, like, sometimes they've never heard this trick. If you have no rhythm and you don't know what you're doing up there and you're bouncy and sloppy and you don't really know what to do, your horse also doesn't know what to do, and they will be speeding up and slowing down. So just deep breath, nice and calm, count their rhythms and their paces, and they'll come down to you. Especially a well-trained school horse, which you should be on for your first couple of years. So that leads me to the next thing. Do not buy a horse in your first year of riding. I don't understand why people do that. You're still so new to the sport. You don't even know what you want to do with your riding yet. Do you want to trail ride? Do you want to run barrels? Do you want to jump? Are you ready to jump yet? Are you still learning how to trot? Why would you buy a horse? You're going to go through so many horses in your first couple of years as you progress. And if you really want your own horse, look for a lease horse. You can find those on listings like Kijiji and the Craigslist. So ask your riding instructor, and maybe someone at the barn has a horse for lease. You can post an ad looking to lease a horse and people will contact you. There's so many ways to find a lease horse. So in case you don't know what a lease is for horses, because I've met many people who've never heard of leasing a horse, it's basically renting someone else's horse. So there's part-time leases where you get them for a day or two a week, and you just pay a small amount per month. So say for here in Canadian dollars, like $100 a month, and you get this horse for 2 rides a week, whenever you want to go. Or say in your lesson once a week, and then one spare practice ride once a week. Or you can do a full-time lease where you take over this horse 100% basically. So it's still someone else's horse. They have the paperwork for that horse and they can take their horse back at any time, but you get to go ride it 5 days a week. You can bond with it, take care of it, and then you pay a slightly larger fee. So maybe you just take over that horse's costs month to month. Such a great route to go. You can usually take lease horses to your first couple of shows too. It changes lease to lease and you might have to ask the owner, but usually they're okay with you taking the horse to like a small walk trot kind of class, or for your first jumping school where you're just doing small cross rail jumps that are only a foot tall anyways. Best way to get to learn how to own a horse. Let's see. Okay, another one on the list. Something I really learned too a couple years into riding was body posture. A lot of people tuck into a fetal position when they're scared on a horse. So say their horse rears or bucks or takes off and you lose your position or even lose the stirrup. Most people instantly freeze up, they pull the reins back really, really hard, and they panic and they curl into a ball and it's just a disaster. That's how you fall off. So that will probably happen a few times before you can get a hold of your emotions. So just be aware that that will probably happen and that's okay. It happens to every single rider. But when it happens, really, really try to turn off panic mode and just think to yourself, nice deep calm breath. Just relax. Keep your weight down in your heels as your horse is bucking or rearing or whatever it's doing. Even if you lost your stirrup, just keep your weight down around the horse. Lean back a little bit and then just casually grab one rein and pull that horse to one side because they can't take off straight ahead if their body is turned like that. So just relax, wait it out. Usually horses only bolt or panic or spook for a little time. And I'm sure at this point you're still in an arena, so at worst they'll just run around the arena once or twice. I would, to everyone who has horses in their life, advise to never stop taking lessons, ever. Even if you've been riding for 10 years, even if it's only for like 1 or 2 lessons a year at that point, you should still have someone on the ground kind of assess and critique your riding and give you pointers, like stay humble. This is a lifelong sport. People have been doing it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And even if you're 80 years old, there is still something new that you're gonna learn about horses. More, because I'm just talking and talking. Hopefully you guys learned at least one thing from this video, and I didn't just talk your ears off. But let's see, another thing. Horse riding doesn't have to be expensive. I get asked all the time, how do you afford horses? And I mean, you can own horses for the same cost that a dog is. I once had a dog that cost more than my horse did month to month on dog food and vet bills and shampoos and toys and bones. So it just depends on what you want and where you are in the world. So I'm lucky that I live in a place where we have lots of land and quite a lot of hay. So owning horses doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It is different region to region, but for the costs here in Alberta, you can own a horse for as low as about $150 a month. That's about $110 American per month. And that will pay for your food and your farrier and your deworming every few months. Like everything that the horse needs will be covered with that amount. But on the far end of things, you can also own a horse for over $1,000 a month and have them in a high-end boarding stable where they're kept in a stall and they get massages regularly. It's all up to you. I wish more people got to experience horses, and I feel a lot of people just think it's inaccessible and that they can't. But you can. It is attainable. You can find a riding stable and a lease horse and get started. Just try this cool sport out. It's so much fun. So my last bit of advice, and this one is one I've kind of thought about a lot over the years, is to just don't get it discouraged by your horse riding progress. Personally, I've been riding for almost 9 years and a little bit when I was younger. And for the amount of riding that I've done, I feel I'm quite behind. And it's just my personal journey. That's okay. It took me a long time to learn balance at the canter and to start learning more advanced skills like flying lead changes and to be jumping bigger courses. But that's fine. I got there eventually. Like, it's not a race. Try not to compare yourself to others. And on the alternative, I've seen people who've only been riding for a year or two go so far. Sky's the limit. They're already competing at higher levels than I am, and they're winning, and they're naturally gifted, and they bond with that horse right away. They're just really good at riding. Everyone is different. So don't get discouraged when your muscles hurt and you're sore, and maybe you just had a bad fall and you're a little scared to get back on your horse again. Don't be discouraged. Just remember why you do this sport. Remember what about it you love. That look that your horse gives you with its pretty soulful eyes, and the smell of their fur after a ride, and that sound of crunching hay in the barn, and the feeling of freedom you get when you're walking and trotting on a trail ride. Nothing beats that, and that's why we do this sport.